Welcome to Successful Living with Bill Napick. Every week we talk about success and everything that goes along with it. You'll learn the principles of success, how to achieve success, and learn to overcome challenges that may be getting in the way of success in your life. You'll hear from Bill Napick, a radio personality and business development expert, along with insight from special guests. If you're ready to find your path to success or take the success you're enjoying to the next level, stay tuned. Successful Living with Bill Napick is on right now.
And welcome to the show, Successful Living with Bill Napick. That's me. And today with Josh Smith. He is a gifted performer, composer. He plays the piano, the violin, and the guitar, and leads worship at Second Baptist's 11:11 service every Sunday. Josh, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Bill. Glad to be here.
That is so exciting. And what we get to experience at Second Baptist, those that get to go to any of our service, but certainly the 11:11 service, they see phenomenal worship music right there. And it's just so awesome. And you're the leading edge of that.
Yeah, I'm the music director and worship pastor for the 11:11 service, and I've been there a little over 6 years on staff. We've got a band that we've kind of put together over the years that's just on top of stuff, and we've got some singers that come in and ring every week, and it's been a lot of fun.
It's incredible. Well, let's first talk about music for you. It must have been part of your life from early on. So let's tell a little bit of your story. I mentioned the 3 instruments that you play.
Yeah.
What was the first one you picked up?
The first one was the violin. I started that when I was 4. I came from a kind of a musical family, so it was almost expected that all of us would have an instrument that we played. And I picked the violin when I was 4. I saw a violinist named Itzhak Perlman on Sesame Street when I was young, and I told my parents I want to play that. So they put me in lessons and just kind of kept going through growing up. And then once I went to college, I got a degree in classical violin performance. And along the way, started picking up piano. Learning.
Now, what age did the piano come into play?
That was around 10 or 11 years old.
That's interesting because some people start with the piano, then they go to other instruments, but that violin is so beautiful. Yeah. And we mentioned the 11:11 service. However, you play at all the specials at Second Baptist, even the 9:30 recently, you were playing the violin there. So you're playing at a lot of different things, both instruments, but that violin, when you get out there, you're before sometimes 5,000 to 6,000 people. Mm-hmm. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, it can get a little nerve-wracking, and it gets your nerves up and everything, but I've just found, just kind of relax into the abilities that God's given you and kind of let go and let your talent and the practice and stuff that I've put in kind of come through, and it relaxes you.
And also with the violin, starting with that violin, it captured you. You saw it on TV. It triggered your imagination apparently. And when you picked it up, how long did it take before you started playing melodies and you started getting comfortable with it? How did that work early on?
You probably have to ask my parents how annoying that was early on.
Because when you hit a wrong note on a violin, it's not good.
I tell people a lot that it's got a very steep learning curve. It takes a long time to get it to where people won't actually listen to you play. And I appreciate my parents for being patient and getting through all that with me. But eventually, once I got into high school, I started getting real serious about it, and started to really kind of come into my own as far as getting just being able to get a tone out of the instrument and be able to play. And so that's when I kind of started realizing, well, maybe I could do this.
And a little later in the show, you will pull out the violin, and we'll hear some of that. But there's no question, it is a beautiful instrument when played by someone that knows how to do it like yourself.
Yeah, and starting so young too. When I was 4, I realized through the years it's almost like talking for me. It's not a skill that I feel like I ever learned. It was something that I just from the beginning of my memory have always been playing it. And so it's just like walking or talking. It gets to the point where it's just communicating.
Indeed. Now, also, when you play, I've seen you play, and I've played along with you. Sometimes you use music, but a lot of times I see you play where you're just playing without the music. Tell us about that.
Well, it just depends on the situation. I've developed the ability to improvise in situations where I can hear the chord changes around me and kind of know which notes are going to work melodically around them. Times it's just a melody of a hymn or some song that I know well and can just go and play it just like anybody could go up and sing a melody that they know well. And so,
in fact, I'm thinking recently of a service where Jeremy Good was playing the piano. and you were not only neither one of you had music, but you were also geographically very far apart in our worship
miles
center.
apart.
Miles apart, it seemed like. But the killer thing was, both of you, I don't know if Jeremy started with a song and then you started playing the melody. It was beautiful how that worked together. That was phenomenal.
Yeah, that was something we've done a few times for some weddings and some funerals, and we just kind of at one point realized that both of us had a very similar upbringing as far as knowing hymns from the church, and usually just takes a couple of bars for me to know, okay, that's the one he's playing, and I can figure out what key he's in.
Key, and there you go from
there. And
there.
then we just go from there, and both of us are listening as much as we're playing and responding to each other.
That's beautiful how that works. Also, let's talk about the piano. So when you first got involved in the piano, tell us about that adventure, and how was it that the piano caught your interest as you were probably deep in the violin work?
I was, and I probably didn't practice violin as much as I should have, and would get bored. We had a piano at the house from the time I can remember. So my mom played piano, and she would accompany us for things, and she was always in there singing. So I just eventually was like, well, there's keys there. I should figure out how to play them. And my parents had gotten a book of chords for my older brother, who was taking lessons at the time. And so I just started going through this book of chords and learning a C chord, and then I learned an F chord. And then I found all these music books that had these chords written on top of the music, and I put the correlation, if I play this chord, that's the notes of that song. And so I would just plunk through each chord change, bum, 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 just incessantly until I was very comfortable with all the chords and in certain keys and stuff. And then eventually my mom got a little bit tired of the clunking, and she said, hey, why don't you try to arpeggiate, which is playing each note one at a time, or try to play a little bit of melody and stuff. And so that kind of pushed me to get a little bit more adventurous in my playing. And so that just kind of got me interested in being able to hit more styles and stuff.
And then also, as far as reading music, because as I play the organ at church, and I play a little piano as well, however, I don't really read music, and that was the mistake I made. So if anyone's listening out there, I would highly encourage you, don't stop with just the chords, because that's where I stopped, and I never really got to read the left hand very well. I could read the right hand okay, but you took it beyond that, because just recently, I sat beside you. You were playing something very difficult, and you were reading all those high notes. Tell us about reading music, and let's encourage those youngsters out there.
I will encourage the youngsters to learn music, but I will say that I am not the strongest reader. I can read treble clef, which is the one that the violin reads. Violin reads mostly from treble clef, and I can read that night and day, front and back, really well. The bass clef in the left hand on the piano is a little weaker. So if I have chords, I can usually make a hybrid of what's written versus what I'm comfortable playing and fool everybody.
In fact, you probably know the passage I'm talking about. It was on the song just last week, You Are Worthy. You were playing those notes. They were fast and they were high up there. I'm like, holy smokes, look at this guy. How did you do it? So, but you have what I know a lot of keyboard players have. You have the ability to read and you can improvise. To me, that's the best of all worlds.
Yeah, I feel like that's kind of what's given me kind of the biggest door into making a living of this is not being caught up in just the classical reading world and not being so tied up in the improvising artsy music world that I'm able to communicate in both worlds and which has really helped me even at the church, being able to tie those two worlds together. Like in our band, the 1111 band, we don't use charts usually. We'll just kind of learn the songs by feel and by ear, but sometimes we'll add like a string section. And they're all reading music, and so everything that in
fact, a lot of them need to. That's the only way they operate.
There's no way to have 8 string players play with a band and it go well without them having sheet
they're
music.
all improvising. No, it's not going to work.
So when I first came on, that was one of the things I started to incorporate was these string sections and stuff, and I had the ability to live in both worlds. I could communicate to the band in a way that they could understand music form, and then I could also translate that to the string players in a way that they understand with sheet music. And hopefully brought everything together in a cohesive way.
Indeed, it comes together. So let's talk about that, the 1111 service. People that are listening right here on 100.7 FM in Houston can hear the 1111 band and also hear great sermons and preaching by Ben Young, sometimes Gary Thomas. So we have really a lot to offer as a spiritual resource in terms of music and hearing God's Word every weekend. 9:30 service, but you're at the 11:11 service. Your band, the band that is there, people like J.J. Worthen. He's been on this show. It's been a while. Capella. You have such great, even Landon Peterson on the guitar. Everybody plays so well. Let's tell people a little bit about the music, then we'll hear a clip of one of the songs Capella is singing in.
Right. Well, we're probably just a standard kind of contemporary worship band, but one of the things that we've tried to do is, because we do have such a great group of musicians, and they're not all just guys who can play the latest Chris Tomlin hit. You know, they're guys who have real chops, who can play in any situation. And so what I've tried to do, especially having singers like JJ, who can come in and do pretty much anything you ask him to, we try to incorporate a little bit more musicality and take what's maybe recorded on some of these worship songs that come out on these national releases and make them a little bit more of our own, and use our strengths and our forces and our people, and make it something that no other church can do, because it's us.
It really is a blessing. People can see the service, 1111 Second Baptist Woodway campus. So let's tell people a little bit before we hear this song that Capella is singing on. Tell them a little bit about that, and we're going to hear a few seconds of that.
This is a good example of taking a song that a lot of people know, but we changed it around. We changed some chords and made it a little bit, hopefully a little more epic. This was our Easter service this year, and it was a great moment in the room. We had a choir in there. We had an 8-piece string section and the full band and everything. And this is a song that's a Carrie Job song called Forever, but it's our own twist on it. We've got a couple little surprises, and hopefully it's a good change.
And let's hear some of that right now. Unbelievable. Let's tell people, Josh, about Capella as she's singing that, and also just when she gets to that part, you're playing the piano on this song, and when she gets to the part of the ground begins to shake, it's so moving. Let's tell people about Capella and some more about the song.
Well, we're blessed to have Capella singing with us. She's actually an on-air DJ at another station in town, and so she's been on staff at our church for a little while, and just kind of went back into full-time radio, and her husband Adam is one of our audio team, and just a sweet couple who has a heart for worship and for serving the church and everything. And she's also one of our worship leaders at our Spanish service.
That's right. There's a service yet at after 12:15 it starts.
12:30, yeah, at Second Baptist. So if you have any Espanol listeners, they can come see Capella sing for that. And so she's bilingual, and she's a great asset to our church.
Indeed she is. And as you say, sometimes she's at the 9:30 service with us when we're playing, and she always has such a great demeanor, always in a good mood. I'm like, wow, I need some of that. So, okay, let's you brought your violin today.
I did.
So let's play a few bars of whatever you choose, and we're going to hear that right now. Beautiful work. Josh, that is incredible. And also for our show here today, that is a show first time we had someone with an instrument and the violin. So, and of course you switched from one style to the other in just a heartbeat.
Turn of a hat.
And, okay, let's go back to, as we think about the things that happen, certainly the 11:11 encourage people. And if you're listening far and wide, people hear the show outside of Houston. If you're here on the weekend and you want to visit our church, Second Baptist, we invite you to come to the 9:30 service. You can see the 11:11 group right there. Stay for both services if you wish. So we invite anybody listening to come and see us right here in Houston, Texas. But also, Josh, the thing that I love about our church is we also do things like our Christmas Under the Big Top show. We have special things, our patriotic celebration coming right up here in July. Let's tell people a little bit about Christmas Under the Big Top that we did. And I had the honor of actually getting to play the B3 on that service. And then we're probably well into planning next year's, right?
For sure. We've already had several Christmas meetings in May. No, Christmas Under the Big Top is kind of the newest version of what has become a big tradition at our church of a Christmas show. It used to be the really, really big Christmas show for several years, and this is kind of the newest version of that. And it's kind of a circus theme, but we tell the story of Christmas, and we keep Christ as the focus, and the music is hopefully something that people enjoy, and we have dancing and twirlers and aerial acrobatics.
It's really
and
incredible.
Everything. It's so fun.
Musically, this past year, especially being behind the scenes with you this year, it was really incredible to see all the things that took place. You were playing the violin, you were using all the instruments, and you were also coordinating all the cues, which as we had actors there, and as you said, the people doing the other acrobatics and things like that. So there were cues that were taking place. Again, if people have been to our worship center, they know there's a big span for the musicians where they're seated. So tying all that together, whether you're leading the music or Joel Mott at the 9:30 service, it's not an easy thing to do, but it really came together in a magnificent way. It's exciting that we're well into it right now.
Yeah.
And give people just another word of what they can expect when they come this Christmas 2017.
This Christmas, we're sticking to some of the same types of things, but there's definitely going to be some new surprises and some new things in store, a couple maybe new songs coming up. The exciting thing, I don't know if somebody missed it this year, but they had seen it in previous years, the biggest change for us this last year was adding live musicians to the show.
Right.
Before, it was everything was tracked. It was all kind of played off of the sound system, and it had a certain magic to it, but you cannot replace the energy that comes from live musicians playing live music.
No doubt about it. In fact, now that I'm reminiscing, I believe I got to play the last performance. That was a Tuesday night, I think, and it was sold out. And that's a show where people come and see it, and they visit again, and they bring more people because it was done so well. God has blessed us in a tremendous way. But I remember that Tuesday night; it was so exciting. It was packed out, and to see the worship center packed out, that in itself is unbelievable.
Yeah, from top to bottom, it was packed, and that was one thing we were a little worried about coming into it. It's like, how are people going to respond to a new show? The ticket sales for the first couple of shows were decent, but as word got out and as people enjoyed the show and they wanted to come back and they invited their friends and they told about it, the shows towards the end of the run started selling out, and that was super exciting just to see the energy come from something, just being able to be part of something that was well produced and well performed. So indeed,
there has been a buzz. When the first year that we did that, the buzz has expanded and it is continuing. And if anyone was there last year, they know it's going to be great again this year. Also, let's say a word. Going back to the 11:11, you have great musicians. Let's say a shout out to some of the great people we've talked about. Capelia singing, yourself, JJ, good old Landon Peterson on that screaming guitar.
Oh, yeah.
He's unbelievable.
He is unbelievable. We're happy to have him. We've got a guy named Walter Funes, also on electric guitar. We are blessed to have three of the top electric guitar players in Houston. I would think at our church, and one of the great things, I think, having them, it's hard to have three people playing the same instrument because they've got to know how to work together, and those guys are top-notch professionals, and they can make it work, and that's a rare thing. So I'm very lucky to have that in our group. And we've got a guy, David Hora on drums. It's a great guy. A guy named Daniel Amaya is our bass player. Donnie Boutwell sits in on percussion, And
he does such fine work at the 9:30 service too, and it's great to work alongside with Donnie. Incredible.
Another guy who's got a heart for ministry in our church, and we love having him be a part. So
it really is such a blessing. Again, if you are out there listening and you've not been to Second Baptist Woodway campus, we have 7 locations all over Houston, but certainly the Woodway campus, a lot is going on there, especially as we're talking about the music that we're involved with. But Josh, you're doing an incredible job there, and it must be so exciting for you to be a part of such a thing and to work with such great people.
It is, yes. I do not take it lightly, the position that I've been put in at this church, and the people that have been put around me for this job, and it's kind of a dream position. I love it.
Indeed it is. Now, let's encourage some people out there, those that are musicians, whatever instrument they want to play, the piano, the violin, let's give them a word as far as staying in practice. What are the things that you do to play so well all these instruments, but how much do you practice a day? And I know you're doing a lot with the church, so you're practicing automatically with your job, but tell us your philosophy there.
Right now I work so much that's kind of keeps me in practice, but I do still do gigs and stuff, and there's times where I've got to sit down and woodshed a little bit, which is where you just kind of get out all the kinks and learn a part or learn something. But for somebody coming up who's wanting to do more stuff professionally or be excellent at an instrument, just work on basics and get lots and lots of experience. That's the one thing that I think grows you the most. I mean, you can sit and play scales in your room all day, but until you can get out on a stage and, like you were talking about earlier, just be comfortable in front of 4,000 or 5,000 people, just comes from doing it.
Give us a quick word on that again. To be comfortable, it's one thing to play in your home in front of your family, but to play in front of 1,000, 50, 5,000. What's the thought process again?
I had a little breakthrough in college one time where I was asked to get up in front of our whole string section and play the solo I'd been working on. And I had actually stayed up till about 4 o'clock the night before working on a paper, which was typical for me. But I was so exhausted. I had problems with my nerves in college. I would shake, my bow would shake when I play. But I got up and I was so exhausted that I did not care what anybody thought about me. And I played the best I'd ever played in front of people. And so that got me thinking, and it's not that you want to get up and not care, but you just have to relax into the fact that you know the stuff. You know what you're doing, and just relax and let it happen. The more you worry about it and overthink it, the more.
Exactly. I just heard that a comedian talking about the same thing. When it's that you don't care and you go forward, you're a little bit looser. Ladies and gentlemen, Josh Smith, and we're going to take the show out with a song. This is J.J. Worthen.
This is.
Tell them about the song as we close out the show, Josh.
This is literally Sunday, 5 days ago from now. We did. We're doing a series on heaven, and so we did this song by a little band from Dublin.
Called U2,
right? Called U2, and Where the Streets Have No Name, and so JJ just knocked this one out of the park.
Indeed. Thanks for listening, JJ Worthen and the 1111 Band at Second Baptist.